For 6 months, my daughter-in-law brought me homemade soup every single day while I was dying, and I thanked her for it. You need to understand something about me. I've always been the strong one, the matriarch, the woman who raised her son David alone after his father walked out when he was 3 years old. I worked 2 jobs, put David through college, bought him his first car, helped him start his business. And when he married Sarah 8 years ago, I welcomed her like the daughter I never had. Sarah was perfect, attentive, loving, always calling to check on me. She'd bring the grandchildren over every Sunday for dinner at my house. She'd help me with grocery shopping, accompany me to doctor's appointments, sit with me during lonely evenings and just talk. My friends envied me. "You're so lucky," they'd say. "Most daughters-in-law can't stand their husbands' mothers. But Sarah treats you like gold." I believed I was blessed. Then 6 months ago, everything changed. It started small, so small I almost didn't notice. A persistent nausea that wouldn't go away. Food tasting metallic. My hands trembling when I tried to hold my morning coffee. I blamed it on age. I was 58. Bodies slow down, right? But it got worse. Dizziness that made me grab walls for support. Stomach cramps that doubled me over. Weight dropping off my frame until my clothes hung loose. My vision blurring at the edges. I went to my doctor. Dr. Patterson ran every test imaginable. Blood work, CT scans, endoscopy, even tested for cancer. Everything came back inconclusive. "It's very strange, Grace," he said, frowning at my charts. "Your symptoms suggest some kind of toxin in your system, but we can't identify what. Have you been exposed to any chemicals? Cleaning products? Pesticides?" I hadn't. I lived in a normal suburban house, used normal products, ate normal food. "Maybe it's stress," he finally concluded. "Sometimes the body manifests emotional pain as physical symptoms. Have you been under unusual pressure lately?" I hadn't been. My life was quiet, peaceful, surrounded by family who loved me. So I went home with prescriptions for nausea medication and antacids and tried to push through. But the sickness persisted, wrapping around me like a fog I couldn't escape. That's when Sarah became my angel. "Mom Grace," she said one afternoon, sitting beside me on my couch while I struggled to keep down crackers. "I've been doing research. I think you need better nutrition. Your body is clearly depleted. Let me help you." She started bringing me homemade meals. Soups, broths, special teas, she said, would restore my strength. She'd sit with me while I ate, encouraging every spoonful. "Come on, Mom, just a little more. You need your energy." I was so grateful, so touched by her devotion. Here was this young woman with 2 small children of her own, taking time every single day to care for her sick mother-in-law. David would come by after work, always rushed, always distracted by his business. "How's Mom today?" He'd ask Sarah, not me. "She's hanging in there," Sarah would answer, stroking my hand. "I'm taking good care of her. Don't worry." And he didn't worry, because Sarah was handling everything. Before we go any further into this, I just want to say, if you feel a connection to these stories, a small click on that like button and subscribe would mean more to me than you know. It lets me know I'm not just speaking into the void, that you're really here with me. All right, let's continue. My younger brother Derek started visiting more often during those 6 months. Derek and I had always been close. He was only 3 years younger than me, and after our parents died, we'd become each other's only family, besides David. Derek would stop by in the afternoons, usually when David was at work. He'd bring flowers, sit with me, make me laugh with stories about his latest fishing trips. "You're looking better today, Gracie," he'd say, even when I knew I looked terrible. Sometimes Sarah would be there when Derek arrived. They'd exchange pleasantries, make small talk. Sarah would offer him coffee. They seemed friendly enough, though I noticed Derek always left quickly when she was around. "I don't want to intrude on your time with Sarah," he'd explain. "She's doing such a wonderful job taking care of you. Everyone kept saying that. Sarah was doing a wonderful job. But I kept getting sicker. 4 months into my mystery illness, I could barely walk without feeling faint. My hair started falling out in clumps. My skin took on a grayish tone that made me look like I was already dead. Friends stopped calling. I think seeing me scared them, reminded them of their own mortality. Only Sarah remained constant. Every day, without fail, she'd arrive with her thermos of soup, her special tea, her homemade meals. "You're losing too much weight, Mom," she'd say with concern, creasing her pretty face. "Please, you have to eat. Do it for David. Do it for the grandchildren. They need their grandmother." So I'd force down the food that tasted like metal and made my stomach burn, because Sarah cared, because Sarah was trying so hard to help me. My grandson, Tyler, who was 7, asked me one day, "Grandma, why do you smell funny?" "Tyler!" Sarah snapped at him. "That's rude. Apologize to Grandma right now." But he was right. I did smell funny, a sweet chemical smell I couldn't identify. I thought maybe it was the medications reacting with my body chemistry. Dr. Patterson scheduled more tests. "Grace, I'm very concerned. Your kidney function is declining. Your liver enzymes are elevated. Something is poisoning your system, but I can't figure out what." Poisoning. He used that word. But neither of us understood what it meant. I started keeping a journal of everything I ate, every product I used, every place I went, trying to identify the source of my mysterious illness. Pages and pages of mundane details. Bread from the bakery, tea from Sarah, soup from Sarah, vitamins Sarah brought me, water from my tap, tea from Sarah. I never noticed the pattern. Sarah's name appeared on almost every page. 5 months in, I could barely get out of bed. My world had shrunk to my bedroom, my bathroom, and the living room couch where Sarah would prop me up with pillows and feed me like a child. "I don't know what I'd do without you," I told her one afternoon, tears streaming down my hollow cheeks. "You're the daughter I never had." She smiled and wiped my tears with a tissue. "Oh, Mom Grace, your family. This is what family does." Then she handed me another cup of her special tea, the one that always made me feel worse an hour later, but that I drank anyway because Sarah said it was detoxifying. "Drink up," she encouraged. "Every drop. It's good for you." I drank it, every drop. That night, I woke up vomiting violently. David found me collapsed on the bathroom floor at 3 a.m. and rushed me to the emergency room. The ER doctor said I was severely dehydrated, and my organs were showing signs of failure. "Mrs. Chen, you need to tell me the truth," the doctor said gently. "Are you trying to hurt yourself? Is this intentional?" "No," I gasped, horrified. "I want to live. I don't understand what's happening to me. They kept me overnight for observation." Sarah arrived in the morning with fresh clothes and toiletries. She'd even brought me a thermos of soup. "Because hospital food is terrible," the nurse tried to take it from her. "I'm sorry, but outside food isn't allowed for patients under observation." "Oh, but this is special," Sarah protested. "She needs nutrition. She's wasting away," the nurse was firm. "Hospital policy." "I'm sorry." I saw something flash across Sarah's face. Just for a second. Anger, frustration. But then her sweet smile returned. "Of course. I understand. Rules are rules." They released me the next day with more prescriptions and a recommendation to see a specialist in the city. As David drove me home, Sarah in the back seat with her thermos still full of soup, I felt a strange sensation in my gut. Not nausea this time. Something else. Unease. But I pushed it away. Sarah loved me. Sarah was caring for me. Sarah would never. My birthday was coming up in 2 weeks. January 15th. I'd be 58 years old, though I look 70. "Mom, we need to do something special for your birthday," David said. "You've been so sick. We need to celebrate that you're still here." "I don't know if I'm up for it," I said weakly. "Nonsense," Sarah chimed in from the back seat. "We're going to have a beautiful dinner. Your favorite restaurant? Antonio's, right? I'll arrange everything. All you have to do is show up and let us spoil you. Sarah, that's too much work for you. It's no work at all, Mom. It's my gift to you. She reached forward and squeezed my shoulder. You deserve something wonderful after these awful months. Her hand felt cold through my thin shirt. Or maybe I was just cold all the time now. We'll invite everyone, Sarah continued, her voice bright with enthusiasm. David's colleagues, your friends from book club, Derek, of course. It'll be perfect. That sounds lovely, I whispered, closing my eyes as another wave of nausea hit. What I didn't know, what I couldn't possibly have known, was that Sarah wasn't planning a birthday party. She was planning my funeral. Over the next 2 weeks, Sarah visited every day as usual, but I noticed small changes. She seemed distracted. Her phone kept buzzing with texts. She'd read with a slight smile before quickly putting it away. She'd leave the room to take calls, speaking in hushed tones I couldn't quite hear. Everything okay? I asked once. Perfect, she said too brightly. Just planning surprise details for your party. Don't worry about anything. Derek came by 3 days before my birthday. It was late afternoon, and I was dozing on the couch when I heard voices in my kitchen. Sarah's voice, and Derek's. I couldn't make out words, just tones. They sounded intimate, close, not like casual family members chatting, like people who knew each other well. When I shuffled into the kitchen, they jumped apart. Both had guilty expressions that smoothed over too quickly. Oh, Mom Grace, you're awake, Sarah said. Derek stopped by to confirm he's coming to your birthday dinner. I wouldn't miss it, Gracie, Derek said, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. Something felt wrong, but my mind was so foggy from the sickness, the medications, the constant nausea. I couldn't hold on to the thought long enough to examine it. I should go, Derek said, moving toward the door. See you Saturday, sis. After he left, Sarah helped me back to the couch. Here, I brought you fresh soup today. A new recipe. I think you'll love it. The soup tasted more metallic than usual. Bitter. My stomach immediately protested, but I forced it down because Sarah was watching me with those kind, concerned eyes. Good girl, she murmured. Every drop helps you get stronger. That night, I was so sick I couldn't leave the bathroom. David wanted to call an ambulance again, but Sarah convinced him it was just my body, purging toxins. She'll be better by her birthday, Sarah assured him. Trust me. And somehow, against all odds, I did feel slightly better by Saturday morning. January 15th, my 58th birthday. I managed to shower, put on makeup to hide the worst of my pallor, and wear the blue dress Sarah had bought me, specifically for this occasion. It matches your eyes, she'd said when she gave it to me. You'll look beautiful. In the mirror, I looked like a skeleton wearing a beautiful dress. But I smiled anyway. My family loved me. My daughter-in-law had worked so hard to give me this celebration. I was grateful. David drove us to Antonio's at 6 p.m. The restaurant was beautiful, decorated with flowers and balloons. A large table had been reserved for our party. Friends were already arriving, hugging me carefully like I might break. Grace, you made it. We've been so worried about you. You look wonderful. They lied kindly. Derek arrived and kissed my cheek. His lips felt cold. Or maybe that was me again. Sarah had arranged everything perfectly. Appetizers, main courses, a beautiful cake. She'd even pre-ordered my wine, a special vintage she knew I loved. I wanted everything to be perfect, Mom, she said, squeezing my hand. You deserve the best. At 7:15 p.m., after everyone had arrived and we'd finished our appetizers, a young waitress brought out a bottle of wine. She looked nervous, her hands shaking slightly as she approached our table. This is for the birthday, lady, she announced, but her voice trembled. Sarah smiled. Yes, that's the special bottle I ordered. Pour her a full glass. The waitress did, but as she reached toward me with the glass, She fumbled. The glass tilted, wine nearly spilling, and a folded napkin fell from her apron directly onto my lap. "I'm so sorry," the waitress gasped, her eyes meeting mine with an intensity that felt deliberate. "I'm so clumsy tonight." "It's fine," I assured her, picking up the napkin. Sarah reached for it. "Here, let me—" But I'd already unfolded it. And there, written in shaky handwriting, were 6 words that stopped my heart. "Don't drink that. Check your wine." I looked up at the waitress. She'd gone pale, sweat beading on her forehead. Then she turned and practically ran toward the kitchen. "What does the napkin say?" Sarah asked, her voice suddenly sharp. I crumpled it in my fist. "Nothing, just restaurant information." My heart was pounding so hard I thought everyone could hear it. "Don't drink that. Check your wine." I looked at the glass of deep red wine sitting in front of me, then at Sarah, who was watching me with an expression I'd never seen before. "Not quite worry. Something harder." "Aren't you going to drink it, Mom?" she asked. "I ordered that vintage specifically for you." Across the table, Derek was staring at me too, waiting. My hands were shaking. My mind was racing. "Don't drink that. I want to make a toast first," I heard myself say. I stood up, my legs barely supporting me. Everyone fell silent, smiling, waiting for me to speak. "Thank you all for being here tonight," I began, my voice stronger than I expected. "These past 6 months have been the hardest of my life. But they've shown me who really cares about me, who really loves me." I picked up the wine glass. Sarah's smile grew wider. "Family is everything," I continued, "and I'm so grateful for the family I have." I raised the glass toward Sarah in a toast. She raised hers back, her eyes gleaming. "To family," I said. "To family." Everyone echoed, raising their glasses. And in that moment, with everyone watching, I did something I'd never planned, something that probably saved my life. I leaned forward to clink glasses with Sarah, and accidentally switched them. Mine went to her side of the table. Hers came to mine. It happened so fast, so smoothly in the chaos of toasting and clinking, that I don't think anyone noticed, except Sarah. For just a second, our eyes met, and I saw it. True. Cold fear? "Cheers," I said, and brought her glass to my lips. I didn't actually drink, just wet my lips, but I made it look convincing. Sarah stared at the glass in front of her, the one that had been meant for me. "Drink up, dear," I said sweetly. "To family." Her hand trembled as she reached for it. Everyone was watching now, waiting for her to drink too. She raised the glass. Her eyes darted to Derek, who had gone white. And then she drank. For 4 minutes, nothing happened. We started eating our entrees. Conversation flowed. I watched Sarah like a hawk, my heart hammering in my chest. Then, at exactly 4.5 minutes, Sarah's fork clattered to her plate. She gasped. "I don't feel—" Her face went gray, then green. Her eyes rolled back. "Sarah," David said, standing. "Sarah, what's wrong?" She tried to speak, but foam started pouring from her mouth. Her body convulsed violently, crashing backward off her chair. Someone screamed. David dropped beside her, shouting her name. And I stood there, still holding the glass that had been meant for me, watching my daughter-in-law die from the poison she'd intended for me. Derek ran, just bolted from the restaurant without a word. That's when I knew for certain. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a mystery illness. For 6 months, the woman I'd loved like a daughter had been slowly murdering me. And tonight was supposed to be the night she finished the job. The ambulance arrived in 7 minutes, but it felt like 7 hours. I stood frozen by our table while paramedics worked on Sarah, pumping her stomach right there on the restaurant floor. David was on his knees beside her, crying, begging her to hold on. Other diners had fled, leaving their meals half-eaten. The owner kept saying, I don't understand, over and over like a broken record. One of the paramedics looked up at the police officer who'd arrived with them. "This is antifreeze poisoning. Ethylene glycol. Massive dose. Antifreeze?" David's head snapped toward the paramedic. "How would she—" "That doesn't make sense." But I knew. God help me, I knew exactly how it made sense. "Mrs. Chen?" A detective approached me. He was tall, maybe 45, with kind eyes that had seen too much. "I'm Detective Morrison. I need to ask you some questions." She switched the glasses, I heard myself say. The wine was meant for me. The whole restaurant seemed to go silent. David's head turned slowly toward me, his face a mask of confusion. "Mom, what are you talking about?" The waitress warned me. She dropped a note on my lap. It said, "Don't drink the wine." My voice sounded strange, distant. So I switched glasses during the toast. Sarah drank from mine. I drank from hers. Detective Morrison's expression sharpened. "The waitress warned you? Where is she?" The restaurant owner stammered. She left, right after serving the wine. Just took off her apron and ran out the back. I've never seen her before tonight. She said she was filling in for Maria, who called in sick. But Maria isn't even scheduled to work Saturdays. "Get me the security footage." Detective Morrison ordered another officer. "Now. And I need that wine bottle and both glasses bagged as evidence. No one touches anything on that table." They loaded Sarah into the ambulance. David climbed in with her. But before the doors closed, he looked back at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Not quite accusation, not quite belief. Just confusion. Then they were gone, sirens wailing. "Mrs. Chen, I need you to come down to the station," Detective Morrison said gently. "We need your statement and—" He hesitated. "We need to run some tests on you." "Tests? If that wine was poisoned and it was meant for you, there might be other attempts. Your son mentioned you've been very ill for 6 months." The world tilted. "Oh, God. Come on. Let's get you somewhere safe." At the police station, they took my blood, my urine, even strands of my hair. I sat in a small room with harsh fluorescent lights, wrapped in a blanket someone had given me, and told Detective Morrison everything. The 6 months of mysterious illness, Sarah's constant care, the homemade soups and teas, Dr. Patterson's inability to diagnose me, the hospital visits, the weight loss, the nausea, all of it. He listened without interrupting, taking notes, his expression growing darker with each detail. "Mrs. Chen, I need to ask you something difficult. Is there any reason Sarah would want to hurt you?" "No, I loved her. She loved me, at least. I thought she did. What about money? Your will, insurance policies?" I frowned, trying to think through the fog of shock. My estate is worth about $2 million. My house is paid off, worth maybe $600,000. I have life insurance for $500,000. Investment accounts, retirement savings. I paused. Everything goes to David. He's my only child. And if David inherited everything, who would benefit when he died? The words hit me like a physical blow. Sarah. Oh my God, she wasn't just killing me. She was planning to kill David, too. Detective Morrison nodded grimly. That's what it looks like. Kill you, let David inherit, then kill David and take everything. He closed his notebook. "Mrs. Chen, I'm going to be very honest with you. What you've described, 6 months of systematic poisoning, that's attempted murder. If your blood tests come back positive for chronic poisoning, we have a very serious case. And Derek," I whispered. "My brother, he ran. He knew. Tell me about Derek." So I did. The increased visits, the strange intimacy between him and Sarah, the guilty expressions when I'd walked in on them in my kitchen, the way he'd fled the restaurant the moment Sarah collapsed. Detective Morrison was already typing on his phone. "I'm putting out a bolo. Be on the lookout. For your brother." "What kind of car does he drive?" "A gray Ford truck. 2015, I think." I gave him the license plate from memory. 3 hours later, a nurse came to take more blood samples. "Detective Morrison asked me to rush these labs," she explained. We're checking for a full toxicology panel. How long will it take? For the basics? A few hours. For the complete analysis? Maybe 24 hours. I didn't sleep that night. They'd moved me to a private room at the hospital. The same hospital where Sarah was fighting for her life, 3 floors above me. David was up there with her. He texted me once. They think she'll survive. What the hell is happening, Mom? I didn't know how to answer. At 4 a.m., Dr. Patterson arrived. His face was gray, his hand shaking slightly as he sat beside my bed. Grace, I'm so sorry. You have the results? He nodded. Your blood shows chronic ethylene glycol poisoning, consistent with repeated small doses over an extended period. That's antifreeze, Grace. Someone has been poisoning you with antifreeze for approximately 6 months. The words should have shocked me, but I'd already known. Still, hearing it confirmed made it real in a way that hollowed out my chest. The symptoms you've been experiencing, the nausea, tremors, kidney issues, metabolic acidosis. They're all textbook antifreeze poisoning. If you'd continued ingesting it... He couldn't finish the sentence. You would have died. Maybe within weeks. But I didn't, I whispered, because a stranger dropped a note on my lap. Grace, this is one of the cruelest methods of murder I've ever heard of. Antifreeze poisoning is extremely painful. It causes organ failure, neurological damage. Whoever did this wanted you to suffer. Detective Morrison appeared in my doorway, holding a tablet. Mrs. Chen, are you up for looking at some security footage? I nodded. He sat on the other side of my bed and turned the tablet toward me. This is from Antonio's restaurant. Watch carefully. The footage showed the dining room from a high angle. I could see our table, everyone sitting, laughing. Then the young waitress appeared, carrying the wine bottle. Notice anything about her? Detective Morrison asked. I watched closely. The waitress approached the table, her hands shaking. She poured the wine, and I could see her lips moving. She was counting, timing something. Then, as she reached to hand me the glass, she deliberately fumbled, dropping the napkin onto my lap. Her eyes met mine on camera. There was terror in her face. Pure, absolute terror. She saved my life. I breathed. Yes, she did. We're trying to identify her. She's not on any employee records. She literally walked into the restaurant 2 hours before your reservation, told the manager she was a fill-in, and no one questioned it because they were short-staffed. She knew, I said. She knew the wine was poisoned. How? That's what we need to find out. He swiped to another video. This is from earlier that afternoon. 3 p.m. Watch the back entrance of Antonio's. The footage showed the restaurant's loading area. A figure approached. Derek. My heart sank. He was carrying something. A wine bottle. Your brother delivered that bottle personally, Detective Morrison said quietly. Told the manager it was a special vintage you'd specifically requested. The manager put it aside for your table. Never questioned it. So Derek poisoned the wine. It appears so. But we need to understand the full scope of the conspiracy. He swiped again. This is from outside your house. Yesterday afternoon, the new footage showed my driveway. Derek's truck pulling up. Sarah coming out to meet him. They stood close, talking intently. Then Sarah handed Derek an envelope. We enhanced the audio, Detective Morrison said, and pressed play. Sarah's voice came through, tinny but clear. Tomorrow night, the birthday dinner. This is our last chance. If we don't finish it this week, she might get better on her own now that I've stopped the daily doses, Quirdick's voice. Are you sure the amount is right? We can't have another mistake like tonight. I'm sure. I've researched this for months. This dose will kill her within minutes. Fast enough that she won't suffer too much, but not so fast that it looks suspicious. And after she's gone? We wait 6 months. Let David grieve. Then we start on him. Same method, but slower. No one will ever connect the 2 deaths. What about the money? We split it. $2 million. Plus the house. We sell everything, disappear together. David will be dead, his mother will be dead, and we'll finally have everything we deserve. Derek's laugh was cold. Your husband has no idea his wife and his uncle are going to murder him for his inheritance. David's an idiot. He never suspected a thing about us. Not about the affair, not about his mother. He's too busy with his precious business. The recording ended. I sat there, unable to breathe, unable to think. An affair, I finally whispered. They were having an affair. It appears so. We found more evidence on Sarah's phone. Text messages going back 2 years. They'd been planning this since shortly after they started sleeping together. My own brother, my own baby brother, and the woman I'd loved like a daughter. There's more, Detective Morrison said, though he looked like he didn't want to continue. We found this in Sarah's home office, hidden behind a false panel in her desk. He showed me photos on the tablet, a journal, Sarah's handwriting. I recognized it from birthday cards she'd sent me. The entries were dated, clinical, horrifying. January 15th, 6 months ago. Started adding antifreeze to Grace's tea. 2 tablespoons. She didn't notice the taste. This is easier than I thought. January 30th. Increased dose to 3 tablespoons. She's getting sick. Nausea. Weakness. Perfect. David thinks she has the flu. February 12th. Derek and I celebrated our plan at the motel. Grace suspects nothing. She actually thanked me today for taking such good care of her. The stupid bitch has no idea I'm killing her. March 5th. Grace is getting sicker. Doctor can't figure it out. I volunteered to take her to all her appointments so I can control what she tells them. Derek says I'm brilliant. April 20th. She's so weak now. Barely eating. I have to force-feed her the poisoned soup. Sometimes I want to just tell her what I'm doing. Watch her face when she realizes her loving daughter-in-law has been murdering her for months. May 10th. Derek is getting impatient. He wants the money now. I told him we have to be careful. If we rush, we'll get caught. The plan is perfect as long as we stick to it. June 30th. Grace almost died last week. We had to take her to the ER. I was worried they'd find the poison, but they're all idiots. Doctors said it's a mystery illness. Mystery! I'm literally poisoning her and no one can figure it out. July 15th. Last week. Birthday dinner plan. Finalized. Derek will deliver the wine personally. Special vintage lethal dose. Grace will drink it in front of everyone. She'll die within minutes. It'll look like an allergic reaction or heart attack. No one will ever know. Stop, I gasped. Please stop. Detective Morrison put the tablet away. I'm sorry. I know this is devastating. Why? My voice broke. Why would they do this? I loved them. I would have given them anything. If Sarah and Derek wanted to be together, I would have understood. Why murder? Why torture me? Greed, Detective Morrison said simply. Your estate is worth $2 million. They wanted it all, and they didn't want to wait. But David would have inherited. They'd still have to wait for him to die naturally. They weren't going to wait. The plan was to kill you. Let David inherit. Then kill him within a year. Make it look like grief caused his death. Broken heart syndrome. No one would question a man dying of sadness after losing his mother. I started crying then. Not gentle tears. Ugly, wrenching sobs that came from somewhere so deep inside me. I didn't know that pain existed, brother. The little boy I'd protected from bullies, helped through school, loaned money when he was struggling, had conspired to murder me. My daughter-in-law, the woman I'd welcomed into my family, loved like my own child, trusted with my grandchildren, had spent 6 months torturing me to death. And they'd planned to kill my David, too. My sweet, oblivious son who loved them both. We need to find Derek, I managed to say through my tears. Before he runs. We're looking. Every officer in the state has his description. He won't get far. And Sarah, she's conscious, asking for David. She doesn't know yet that we found the journal, the texts, all the evidence. She thinks she can still play the victim. I wiped my eyes. I want to see her. Grace, I don't think I need to see her. Please, I need to hear it from her own mouth. Detective Morrison studied me for a long moment. Then he nodded. Okay, but I'm recording everything. And if she confesses on camera, we can use it in court. They took me to Sarah's room. She was in a bed much like mine. IV drips in her arms, monitors beeping. She looked small, vulnerable. When she saw me, her eyes filled with tears. Mom, she whispered. Mom Grace, thank God you're okay. What happened? I don't remember anything. They said I was poisoned. I sat in the chair beside her bed. Yes, poisoned with antifreeze. Antifreeze? That's horrible. Who would do that? You tell me, Sarah, who would do that? Something flickered across her face. Uncertainty. Fear. I don't know what you mean. The wine was meant for me, I said quietly. But I switched our glasses. You drank the poison you intended for me. No, that's insane. Mom, you're confused. You've been so sick. Maybe you're not thinking clearly. I've been sick because you've been poisoning me for 6 months. My voice was steady now, cold. Antifreeze in my tea, in my soup, in everything you brought me. That's a lie. Why would I? Because you wanted my money. You and Derek. You've been having an affair for 2 years. You planned to kill me. Let David inherit, then kill him too. $2 million split between you. Sarah's face went white, then red, then calculating. You can't prove any of that. Actually, we can, Detective Morrison said, stepping into the room. He held up an evidence bag containing Sarah's journal. This is pretty damning proof. Sarah stared at the journal. I watched emotions flicker across her face. Fear, rage, calculation. Then finally, something cold and hard settled in her eyes. Fine, she said. Fine. You want the truth? Yes, I poisoned you. For 6 months I fed you antifreeze and watched you suffer. And you know what? I enjoyed it. The venom in her voice was like nothing I'd ever heard. You self-righteous bitch, she hissed. Always so perfect, so generous, so loving, making everyone worship St. Grace. Do you know how exhausting it was pretending to love you? Pretending to care while you droned on about your perfect life with David's perfect father? Sarah, I'm not finished. She tried to sit up but fell back, too weak. Derek and I fell in love. Real love. Not the fake family bullshit you forced on everyone. And we realized we could have everything we wanted if we just got rid of the obstacles. I was an obstacle, I whispered. Your husband is an obstacle? You were both in the way of my future. Our future? That money should be mine. I've spent 8 years pretending to be the perfect daughter-in-law. 8 years of your boring Sunday dinners, and your endless advice, and your pathetic need to be needed. I earned that inheritance. You earned nothing, I said. You destroyed everything. I almost had everything, she corrected. If that stupid waitress hadn't interfered. Who was she? How did she know? We're still figuring that out, Detective Morrison said. But Sarah Hayes, you're under arrest for attempted murder. You have the right to remain silent. As he read her rights, Sarah started screaming. This isn't fair. I did everything right. I researched, I planned, I was perfect. Derek, where are you? Derek, help me. But Derek wasn't coming. He was running. And 12 hours later, they found him. He'd made it 200 miles south before a state trooper spotted his truck at a gas station. When they approached, Derek pulled a gun. The standoff lasted 3 hours. Police negotiators tried to talk him down. They told him Sarah had confessed. They told him it was over. They begged him to surrender. Instead, Derek called me. My phone rang at 2 a.m. Detective Morrison answered. Put it on speaker. Gracie? My brother's voice sounded broken. Gracie, I'm sorry. Derek, please. Just turn yourself in. I can't go to prison, sis. I can't. I'm not built for that. Then you shouldn't have tried to murder me, I said, and my voice was ice. You shouldn't have poisoned your own sister. You shouldn't have planned to kill your nephew. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Sarah said it would be easy. She said no one would know. She said we'd be happy. Sarah is a sociopath, Derek, and you were weak enough to follow her. He was crying now. I know what I am. I wanted something good for once in my life. I wanted money, security, love, and Sarah offered me all three, at the price of murdering your family. I know. His voice dropped to a whisper. I know what I've done. I can't live with it, Gracie. I can't. Derek, please. The gunshot came through the phone. A single loud crack, then silence. Derek? Derek! But my baby brother was gone. They found him slumped in his truck, the gun in his hand, a single bullet wound to his head. He left no note, no final explanation, just the coward's way out. I didn't cry when they told me. I'd run out of tears. 2 days later, Sarah was officially charged with attempted murder and conspiracy to commit murder. She faced 25 years to life if convicted. David came to see me. His eyes were hollow, his face drawn. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in 1 week. Mom, I don't know what to say. There's nothing to say. I loved her. I trusted her. I had no idea. His voice broke. She was going to kill you. She was going to kill me. And I never saw it. I pulled my son into my arms and held him while he cried. It's not your fault. She fooled everyone. That's what sociopaths do. Uncle Derek, too. How did I miss it? How did I not see what was happening? Because you saw what they wanted you to see. Love makes us blind sometimes. We sat together in silence for a long time. Then David said quietly, "What happens now?" "Now we heal," I said. "We grieve. We rebuild, and we make sure Sarah pays for what she did." But there was still one mystery unsolved. The waitress, the young woman who'd saved my life with a napkin and 6 words. Who was she? How did she know about the poison? Detective Morrison was determined to find out. Finding the waitress became Detective Morrison's obsession. He reviewed the security footage 100 times, trying to get a clear shot of her face. But she'd been careful, almost professionally careful. She kept her head down, her hair covering most of her features, positioning herself so cameras caught only angles and shadows. It's like she knew where every camera was. Detective Morrison said, showing me the footage again 3 days after my birthday. She avoided direct facial recognition at every turn. "But she saved my life," I said. Why would she hide her identity if she was helping me? "That's what we need to find out." The restaurant owner, Mr. Antonio, was beside himself with guilt. She just walked in, said she was filling in for Maria. She had a server's apron, knew the layout of the restaurant, acted like she'd worked there before. I was so short-staffed that night I didn't question it. I should have asked for ID, references, something. "What did she look like?" I asked. "Young, maybe late 20s, early 30. Dark hair pulled back. Average height. She wore glasses. Thick frames." He paused. "But now that I think about it, those glasses seemed wrong. Like costume glasses." And her voice. She spoke very softly, but there was something practiced about it, like she was disguising her natural tone. Everything about this mystery woman suggested training, purpose. She hadn't stumbled into that restaurant by chance. Someone sent her, I said suddenly. Someone who knew what Sarah and Derek were planning. Detective Morrison looked at me sharply. "Who would know?" "I don't know. But that note. Don't drink that, check your wine." She knew which glass was poisoned. She knew exactly what was going to happen. We were sitting in my living room. I'd been released from the hospital 2 days earlier, though. I was still weak, still recovering from 6 months of systematic poisoning. My house felt different now. Violated. Every surface Sarah had touched, every room she'd sat in, every cup she'd served tea in, all of it contaminated by betrayal. David had helped me throw away everything Sarah had ever given me. The soups in the freezer, the special tea bags, the vitamins. All of it went into hazmat bags for evidence. "Grace," Detective Morrison said carefully, "I need to ask you something. Is it possible you told someone about your suspicions? Maybe someone you don't remember because of the poisoning fog." "I didn't have suspicions. I trusted Sarah completely until that moment at the restaurant. Then someone else suspected. Someone who knew enough to intervene at the exact right moment. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Mrs. Chen? A woman's voice. Soft, cautious. Familiar somehow. Yes? Who is this? I'm the one who warned you. At the restaurant. I can't tell you my name yet, but I need you to know. You're still in danger. Detective Morrison immediately started tracing the call, gesturing frantically for me to keep her talking. What do you mean I'm still in danger? Sarah's in custody. Derek is dead. There's more to this than you know. Sarah and Derek weren't working alone. Can you meet me? Somewhere public, tomorrow. I'll explain everything. Tell me now. Please, I need to understand tomorrow. 2 p.m. The fountain in Memorial Park. Come alone. If you bring police, I won't show. I need to know who you are. Why are you helping me? There was a long pause. Then, because someone should have saved her. But no one did. I won't let it happen again. Saved who? What are you talking about? But the line went dead. Detective Morrison was already on his radio. The call came from a burner phone, downtown area. We can't pinpoint the exact location. She wants to meet tomorrow. Memorial Park, 2 p.m. You're not going alone. She said no police or she won't show. Grace, this could be a trap. What if Sarah had other accomplices we don't know about? But something in that woman's voice, the pain, the determination, the way she'd said someone should have saved her. I believed she was trying to help. I have to go, I said. I need answers. The next day, I arrived at Memorial Park at 1:45 p.m. Detective Morrison and his team were positioned around the park in civilian clothes, watching from a distance. I wore a wire hidden under my jacket. I sat on the bench by the fountain and waited. At exactly 2 p.m., she appeared. She was young, maybe 32, with dark brown hair and those same thick-framed glasses from the restaurant. But as she sat down beside me, she removed the glasses. Her eyes were hazel, rimmed with exhaustion, and something deeper. Grief. Thank you for coming, she said quietly. Thank you for saving my life. Who are you? She was silent for a moment, watching the water in the fountain. Then, my name is Rachel. Rachel Morrison. Morrison? Like detective. He's my father. I'm a private investigator. I was following Sarah and Derek for the past 3 months. My heart nearly stopped. Your father knows? No, I haven't told him. I've been working off the books. Illegally, actually. The evidence I gathered wouldn't be admissible in court, which is why I had to make sure you switched those glasses. I needed her to confess in a way that would hold up legally. Why were you investigating them? Rachel's hands clenched in her lap. Because 7 years ago, someone I loved died the same way you almost did. Slowly poisoned with antifreeze by someone she trusted. And no one believed me when I said it was murder. The pain in her voice was raw, unhealed. Who? I whispered. My girlfriend. Emma. Emma Chen. The name hit me like electricity. Chen, are you saying... Emma was David's first wife. Your first daughter-in-law. The one who died of kidney failure 7 years ago. The world tilted. David had been married before Sarah. His college sweetheart, Emma. They'd been married for 3 years when she got sick. The same mysterious illness I'd had. The same symptoms. She'd deteriorated for 8 months before dying in the hospital. I'd mourned her. We all had. Emma had been sweet, kind, loving. The doctor said it was kidney disease, I said. Genetic kidney disease. There was nothing anyone could do. The doctors were wrong. Emma was poisoned. I knew it, but I couldn't prove it. Emma and I were in love, Grace. She was planning to leave David for me. We were going to start a life together. David never knew. No, Emma was terrified to tell him. She knew divorce would devastate him, but she couldn't keep living a lie. We were planning to tell him everything after his 30th birthday. Rachel's voice cracked. She never made it to that conversation. She died 2 weeks before his birthday. You think David killed her? No. Rachel shook her head firmly. David loved Emma. He was devastated when she died. But someone didn't want Emma to leave that marriage. Someone who saw an opportunity. Sarah. I breathed. Sarah was David's office manager at the time. She'd been working for him for a year when Emma got sick. And she was always there. Always so helpful. Always so caring. She'd bring food to the hospital. Sit with Emma. Support David through his grief. Oh my God. Sarah killed Emma. I believe so. Emma started getting sick right after she told Sarah about our relationship. Sarah was one of Emma's close friends. Or so we thought. Emma confided in her. Said she was planning to divorce David. 2 weeks later, Emma's mystery illness started. Why didn't you tell the police? I did. I went to my father. I showed him Emma's symptoms, pointed out the timeline, begged him to investigate. But there was no evidence. Emma had been cremated. The autopsy showed kidney failure. Nothing suspicious. And honestly, Grace, I was just the lesbian friend. People assumed I was jealous, delusional, trying to cause trouble because Emma had chosen David over me. The bitterness in her voice was palpable. But Emma didn't choose David, I said quietly. She chose you. Sarah just didn't give her the chance to leave. Exactly. And then, 18 months after Emma died, David married Sarah, the office manager who'd been so supportive, the friend who'd been there through everything. I watched it happen and felt sick. But what could I do? I had no proof. Just suspicions. So you became a private investigator? Yes. I spent 5 years training, learning, building my skills. And I never stopped watching Sarah. I knew in my gut she'd killed Emma, but I needed proof. I needed evidence that would stick. When did you start suspecting she was poisoning me? 3 months ago. I'd been monitoring Sarah's credit card purchases. Again, illegally. I could lose my license for this. But I saw repeated purchases of Antifreeze. Large quantities. She'd buy it from different stores, pay cash, but occasionally she'd slip and use a card. When I saw the pattern, I started following her. Rachel pulled out her phone and showed me photos. Sarah buying Antifreeze at a hardware store. Sarah putting it in her trunk. Sarah carrying thermoses into my house. I followed her to your home. Watched her bring you food. And I saw you getting sicker and sicker. The same symptoms Emma had. The same timeline. I knew what Sarah was doing. But I couldn't prove it legally. Any evidence I'd gathered through surveillance would be thrown out. Fruit of the poisonous tree. So you became a waitress. I broke into Antonio's reservation system and saw Sarah had booked your birthday dinner. I read her emails. Again, illegally. I knew she was planning something big that night. Derek had been helping her. I'd followed him buying chemicals. I documented their affair through their motel visits. She showed me more photos. Sarah and Derek entering a motel. Kissing in Derek's truck. Meeting in parking lots to exchange envelopes. I knew the birthday dinner was the end game. So I went to Antonio's that afternoon, posed as a fill-in server, and watched the kitchen. When Derek delivered that wine bottle personally, I knew. I waited until the right moment, tested a drop of the wine with a chemical kit I had hidden in my apron. Pure ethylene glycol, enough to kill you in minutes. You risked everything to save me. I couldn't let Sarah kill again. I couldn't let another family go through what mine went through when Emma died. So I warned you, and I prayed you'd be smart enough to listen. Tears were streaming down my face. You gave me my life back. Why didn't you come forward afterward? Why hide? Because everything I did was illegal. If I'd come forward, Sarah's lawyers would have gotten her off on technicalities. Illegal surveillance, illegally obtained evidence, private investigator stalking. They'd have torn me apart in court and Sarah would have walked free. But if you switched the glasses and Sarah poisoned herself, that was clean. That was legal. And her journal, her texts, her confession, all of that came from illegal police. Investigation triggered by the incident at the restaurant. You manipulated the entire situation to make sure Sarah couldn't escape justice. Yes, and I'd do it again. Rachel met my eyes. But Grace, that's not why I called you. I said you're still in danger, and I meant it. My blood ran cold. What do you mean? Sarah and Derek weren't working alone. I've been going through my surveillance footage, and there's someone else. Someone who met with Sarah twice in the past month. Someone who gave her something. I couldn't see what. But there's a third conspirator, and they're still out there. Who? I don't know yet. The meetings were in dark parking lots. The person was careful to avoid my cameras. But Grace, I think it was someone close to you. Someone with access to your home. Someone who knew your routines. That's impossible. There's no one else? Just David, the grandchildren, a few close friends. What about staff? Housekeepers, gardeners, anyone who comes regularly. I thought hard. Maria, my housekeeper. She comes twice a week. But she's been with me for 15 years. She's like family. When did she start working less regularly? I frowned. About 6 months ago. She said her daughter was having a baby, needed help, so she cut back to once a week instead of twice. Right when Sarah started poisoning you. Rachel said grimly. Grace, I need you to think. Did Maria ever bring you anything? Food, drinks? No, she just cleaned, although... I paused. She did start bringing me herbal remedies. Said her grandmother's recipes would help with my mystery illness. I drank them a few times, but they tasted awful, so I stopped. Rachel's face went pale. Where are those remedies now? Thrown away. David cleared everything out when we learned about the poisoning. Damn, we need those bottles. If Maria was adding to the poisoning... I stood up, my legs shaking. We need to tell Detective Morrison. Your father. Right now. He'll arrest me for illegal surveillance. I don't care. If there's someone else involved, we need to stop them. Rachel, you saved my life once. Let me save yours now. Turn yourself in. Tell your father everything. I'll testify on your behalf. I'll make sure everyone knows you're a hero. Rachel was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. Okay, but there's one more thing you need to know first. What? The person who met with Sarah in those parking lots? I managed to get a partial license plate. I ran it through databases. Grace, the car is registered to your son David. The world stopped spinning. No. I whispered. No, that's not possible. David would never... I don't think David knows his car was being used. But someone who has access to his vehicle met with Sarah twice. Once 4 weeks ago, once 2 weeks ago. Both times late at night. Both times Sarah received an envelope. Who has access to David's car? His wife. His business partner. His secretary. Anyone with a spare key? Sarah had a key to his car. Yes, but Sarah was meeting someone. Someone was driving David's car to meet her. We need to figure out who. My mind raced. His business partner, Marcus. Marcus Reeves. He's been David's partner for 10 years. But Marcus has been out of the country for 3 months. Business expansion in London. Are you sure? David told me, but... My voice trailed off. I never verified it. I just believed him. Rachel pulled out her phone. What's Marcus's full name? Marcus James Reeves. He's 42. Lives on Oakmont Street. Rachel typed rapidly, her expression growing darker. Grace, Marcus Reeves hasn't left the country. His passport hasn't been scanned at any airport in the past year. He's been here the whole time. But David said... David believed what he was told. Grace, I think Marcus has been orchestrating this whole thing. Think about it. He's David's business partner. He knows your financial situation. He knows about your estate, your will, your assets. If David inherited your $2 million and then died, the business would go to Marcus. I finished. They have a partnership agreement. If one partner dies, the other inherits the business and all associated assets. So Marcus manipulated Sarah and Derek into killing you, then killing David so he could take everything. The business, the inheritance, all of it. I felt sick. We need to find David, right now. If Marcus knows Sarah was caught, if he knows the plan failed, he might try to kill David himself. Rachel finished grimly. She stood up and waved to the surveillance team. Detective Morrison came running. Dad? Rachel said, her voice shaking. I need to confess something. And then we need to save David Chen's life. For the next 20 minutes, Rachel confessed everything to her father. The illegal surveillance, the evidence she'd gathered on Emma's death, the way she'd manipulated the situation at the restaurant, all of it. Detective Morrison's face went through a dozen emotions. Shock, anger, pride, fear. When Rachel finished, he pulled her into a tight hug. "You brilliant, reckless, impossible daughter." He muttered, "We'll deal with the legal consequences later. Right now, we find David." He immediately dispatched officers to David's home, his office, anywhere he might be, and he put out an APB for Marcus Reeves. "Grace, where would David be on a Wednesday afternoon?" Detective Morrison asked. "The office. He's always at the office on Wednesdays. That's where Marcus would expect him to be. If Marcus is going to make a move, it'll be there." We drove to David's office building with sirens blazing. Rachel sat beside me in the back seat, holding my hand. "If something happens to David..." I couldn't finish the sentence. "Nothing will happen," Rachel said firmly. "We'll get there in time." But as we pulled up to the building, I saw David's car in the parking lot. And beside it, another vehicle I recognized, Marcus's black BMW. "He's already here," Detective Morrison said grimly. He spoke into his radio. "All units, suspect may be inside. Proceed with caution. Possible hostage situation." We approached the building carefully. The lobby was empty, eerily quiet. David's office was on the 3rd floor. As we climbed the stairs, I heard voices. David's voice confused and frightened, and Marcus's voice cold and controlled. "I'm sorry it has to be this way, David, but you understand, don't you? The business needs capital. Your mother's inheritance is the only way to save everything we've built." "Marcus, what are you talking about? My mother almost died. Sarah tried to kill her. What does that have to do with..." "Sarah tried to kill her because I paid her to. $100,000 up front, $400,000 when the job was done. Unfortunately, Sarah was greedy and sloppy, and that idiot Derek couldn't even poison a wine glass properly. You hired Sarah to murder my mother, and to murder you, eventually. The plan was perfect. Grace dies, you inherit. Then you die in a tragic accident. I inherit the business and your new assets. We'd be set for life. Well, I'd be set for life." "Marcus, you're insane. You're my friend, my partner. I'm a businessman, David, and business is about making hard choices. Now I need you to write a suicide note. You're devastated by your wife's betrayal and your mother's near death. You can't live with the guilt. It's actually quite poignant." The sound of a gun cocking. Detective Morrison burst through the door. "Drop the weapon! Police!" Everything happened in seconds. Marcus turned, gun raised. Officers swarmed in. David dove behind his desk. Rachel pulled me back into the hallway. A single shot rang out. Then, silence. I screamed, trying to run into the office, but Rachel held me back. "Wait, let them secure the scene." After what felt like hours, but was probably 30 seconds, Detective Morrison appeared in the doorway. "David's fine. Marcus is down. He fired at us. We returned fire. He's gone." I pushed past him and ran to my son. David was crouched behind his desk, shaking, tears streaming down his face. When he saw me, he collapsed into my arms. "Mom. Oh, God, Mom, he was going to kill me. He was going to kill both of us." "I know, baby. I know, but it's over now. It's finally over." We held each other and cried. For Emma, for the trust betrayed, for the family that had tried to destroy us, for the innocence we'd lost. Rachel stood in the doorway, watching us with those sad, haunted eyes. She'd saved us both. This woman who'd loved Emma, who'd never stopped fighting for justice, who'd risked everything to make sure no one else suffered the way she had. "Thank you," I told her, reaching out my hand. She took it, and I pulled her into our embrace. The three of us, 3 survivors, bound by tragedy and saved by one woman's relentless determination. Later that evening, back at the police station, we learned the full scope of Marcus's plan. He'd been embezzling from the business for years, had massive gambling debts. The company was on the verge of bankruptcy. He'd approached Sarah a year ago with a proposition, help him get David's inheritance by killing me and David, and she'd get a cut. Sarah, already having an affair with Derek and resenting her boring life, had agreed. The plan was elaborate. Sarah would slowly poison me while Marcus covered his tracks at the business. Once I was dead and David inherited, Sarah would poison David too. Make it look like grief-induced suicide or natural causes. Marcus would inherit the business and my estate through the partnership agreement. He'd pay Sarah her $400,000 cut, and everyone would walk away rich. Except it all fell apart because of one woman with a camera and an unshakable belief in justice. Rachel faced charges for illegal surveillance, but with my testimony and her father's support, the judge agreed to probation and community service. "You saved 2 lives," the judge said. "That matters more than the rules you broke to do it." Sarah was convicted of attempted murder and conspiracy to commit murder. She received 25 years to life. No parole. Emma's case was reopened. With Rachel's evidence and Sarah's confession, they exhumed Emma's medical records and confirmed she'd been poisoned the same way I had. Sarah was charged with Emma's murder posthumously, meaning if she ever gets parole, she'll face trial for killing Emma. She'll never see freedom again. The trial began 6 months after my birthday dinner that nearly became my funeral. 6 months of healing, therapy, rebuilding. 6 months of David trying to forgive himself for not seeing what was happening under his own roof. 6 months of Rachel becoming part of our family. The daughter-in-law I should have had from the beginning. The woman Emma had loved. The guardian angel who'd saved us all. The courtroom was packed. The media had dubbed it the birthday murder plot. Every news channel wanted to cover the trial of the woman who'd poisoned her mother-in-law for 6 months, then tried to finish the job at a family celebration. Sarah's defense attorney was a shark named Gerald Hutchins, expensive, ruthless, and determined to paint Sarah as a victim of circumstance. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," he said during opening statements, "my client is not a monster. She's a woman who fell in love with the wrong man and made terrible choices, but attempted murder. That requires intent, and we will prove that Sarah Hayes Chen never intended to kill Grace Chen. The poisoning was an accident, a tragic mistake." I sat in the gallery between David and Rachel, listening to this man twist reality into something unrecognizable. The prosecutor, District Attorney Linda Winters, was a woman in her 50s with steel-gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. When it was her turn, she walked to the jury box and placed Sarah's journal on the railing. "The defense wants you to believe this was an accident," she said quietly. "Let me read you an entry from January 15th, the day Sarah Hayes Chen began poisoning Grace Chen. And I quote, started adding Antifreeze to Grace's tea, 2 tablespoons. She didn't notice the taste. This is easier than I thought." She paused, letting the words sink in. "Does that sound like an accident to you? Let me read another entry. February 12th. Grace suspects nothing. She actually thanked me today for taking such good care of her. The stupid bitch has no idea I'm killing her." Several jurors flinched. For 6 months, Sarah Hayes Chen systematically poisoned Grace Chen with antifreeze. She documented every dose. She celebrated her victim's suffering. She planned to inherit Grace's $2 million estate by first killing Grace, then murdering her own husband, David Chen. And on Grace's 58th birthday, Sarah prepared a final, lethal dose intended to end Grace's life in front of her entire family. D.A. Winters picked up the wine bottle, sealed in an evidence bag. This bottle contained enough ethylene glycol to kill an adult woman in under 5 minutes. Sarah Hayes Chen ordered it. Her lover, Derek Morrison, delivered it. And Grace Chen would be dead today, if not for one heroic woman who risked everything to save a stranger's life. She looked directly at Rachel, who sat rigid beside me. "This is not a case about mistakes. This is a case about greed, betrayal, and cold-blooded attempted murder. And by the end of this trial, you will have no doubt that Sarah Hayes Chen deserves to spend the rest of her life in prison. The trial lasted 3 weeks. They called witness after witness. Dr. Patterson testified about my mysterious illness, how every test came back inconclusive, how he'd never suspected poisoning because it was so rare and so cruel. The symptoms were consistent with chronic antifreeze poisoning, he said, his voice heavy with guilt. But I missed it. I failed my patient. Dr. Patterson, antifreeze poisoning is extremely rare, D.A. Winters said gently. How many cases have you seen in your 30-year career? None. This was my first. And I pray it's my last. They called the toxicologist who'd analyzed my blood after the birthday dinner. She testified about the levels of ethylene glycol in my system, how another month of exposure would have caused complete organ failure. Would Grace Chen have survived another month? D.A. Winters asked. No, her kidneys were already beginning to fail. Another 30 days, and the damage would have been irreversible. They called the restaurant owner, Mr. Antonio, who testified about Derek delivering the wine bottle, about the mysterious waitress who'd appeared and disappeared like a ghost. And then they called Rachel. She walked to the stand wearing a simple blue dress, her hair pulled back. No glasses this time. She looked young and scared, and heartbreakingly brave. Ms. Morrison, please tell the jury about your relationship with Emma Chen. Rachel's voice shook at first, then grew stronger. She told them about falling in love with David's first wife, about Emma's plan to leave her marriage, about Emma's mysterious illness that mirrored mine exactly. I believe Sarah Hayes Chen murdered Emma. Chen 7 years ago for the same reason she tried to murder Grace Chen. Emma was in the way of Sarah's plan to control David and his assets. The defense attorney objected, but the judge allowed it. Emma's case had been officially reopened, and Rachel's testimony was relevant to establishing a pattern. Rachel described her investigation, the surveillance, the photos, the moment she realized Sarah was poisoning me, the decision to become a waitress to save my life. Why didn't you go to the police? D.A. Winters asked. Because everything I'd gathered was inadmissible. Illegally obtained. I knew Sarah's lawyers would get her off on technicalities, so I had to create a situation where Sarah would be caught through legal means. You manipulated the situation to ensure justice? Yes, I'm not proud of breaking the law, but I'd do it again to save Grace's life, and to finally get justice for Emma. When the defense attorney cross-examined her, he was merciless. Ms. Morrison, you admit to breaking multiple laws. Illegal surveillance, hacking, trespassing. You're a criminal yourself, aren't you? I broke laws to stop a murderer. Or you fabricated evidence because you were obsessed with your dead girlfriend's husband. Isn't it true that you've been stalking David Chen for 7 years? I've been investigating Sarah Hayes Chen for 7 years. There's a difference, is there? You inserted yourself into this family's tragedy. You played vigilante. I saved Grace Chen's life. Rachel's voice rose. While you sit here defending a woman who tortured her mother-in-law for 6 months, I actually did something. I stopped a murderer. Yes, I broke laws. I'll pay that price. But at least I can sleep at night knowing I saved someone. Can you? The courtroom erupted. The judge called for order. But Rachel's words hung in the air. Then came the hardest day of the trial. The day I had to testify. I walked to the stand on shaking legs. Sarah sat at the defense table, perfectly groomed, her expression neutral. She looked like a corporate executive, not a murderer. Her lawyer had dressed her well. When our eyes met, she smiled slightly, a private, cold smile that made my blood freeze. D.A. Winters approached me gently. Mrs. Chen, can you tell us about your relationship with the defendant? I took a breath. I loved her. I thought she was the daughter I never had. I trusted her completely. Can you describe the 6 months before your birthday dinner? So I did. I described every symptom. The nausea, the weakness, the hospital visits. The way Sarah brought me soup every day. Special tea, vitamins. How grateful I'd been for her care. Did you suspect she was poisoning you? Never, not once. even when the note warned me at the restaurant. Part of me didn't want to believe it. Why did you switch the glasses? Because something in my gut told me to trust that waitress more than I trusted my own daughter-in-law, and that instinct saved my life. D.A. Winters showed me Sarah's journal. Mrs. Chen, I need to show you this. I'm sorry, but the jury needs to hear it from you. She had me read entries aloud. The cruel words Sarah had written about me. The celebration of my suffering. The plans to murder David next. My voice broke several times. At one point, I couldn't continue. The judge called a recess. During the break, David found me in the hallway. Mom, you don't have to do this. We have enough evidence. Yes, I do. The jury needs to hear it from me. They need to understand what she did. When we resumed, D.A. Winters had one more question. Mrs. Chen, do you believe the defendant intended to kill you? I looked directly at Sarah. She stared back, that cold smile still playing at her lips. Yes, Sarah Hayes Chen spent 6 months torturing me. She watched me suffer and enjoyed it. She documented it in her journal like a scientist documenting an experiment. And on my birthday, she served me poison in a wine glass and waited for me to die. That wasn't an accident. That was murder. I just happened to survive it. Then came the defense's cross-examination. Gerald Hutchins approached me with false sympathy. Mrs. Chen, I'm sorry for what you went through. Truly. But isn't it possible that Sarah was trying to help you? That these herbal remedies she brought were meant to heal you? Antifreeze is not an herbal remedy. But you admit you were taking other supplements? Things from your housekeeper, Maria? I paused. We'd never found Maria. She'd disappeared the day after the birthday dinner. Yes, but... So it's possible the poisoning came from another source. That Sarah is being blamed for something she didn't do. Sarah confessed. She admitted everything, under duress, after nearly dying herself. Mrs. Chen, is it possible your memory of events is clouded by trauma? By 6 months of illness that affected your brain function. My memory's perfectly clear. Really? Because you didn't suspect Sarah for 6 months. You didn't notice any signs. You trusted her completely. So how can we trust your judgment now? I felt myself getting angry. I trusted her because she was a good liar. Because she was a sociopath who knew how to manipulate people. That doesn't make me unreliable. That makes her a monster. Objection! Gerald Hutchins shouted. The witness is being inflammatory. Sustained, the judge said. Mrs. Chen, please stick to facts, not characterizations. But the jury had heard me, and I saw several of them nodding. The prosecution's final witness was Detective Morrison. He walked the jury through the investigation, the journal, the texts between Sarah and Derek, the meetings with Marcus Reeves, the full conspiracy. This wasn't a crime of passion, Detective Morrison said. This was a calculated plan spanning years. Sarah Hayes Chen killed Emma Chen 7 years ago. She got away with it. So she tried again with Grace Chen. And she would have succeeded if not for my daughter's intervention. When he said my daughter, his voice broke slightly. Rachel, sitting beside me, squeezed my hand. Then it was Sarah's turn to testify. Against her lawyer's advice, she insisted on taking the stand. She walked up calmly, dressed in a soft pink blouse that made her look innocent and young. When she swore to tell the truth, her voice was steady. Gerald Hutchins started gently. Sarah, tell the jury about your relationship with Grace Chen. I loved her, Sarah said, and tears welled in her eyes. Perfect practiced tears. She was like a mother to me. My own mother died when I was young, and Grace filled that void. I watched this performance in disbelief. The jury was eating it up. Did you poison Grace Chen? No, never. I would never hurt her. But your journal... That journal was... It was a story I was writing. A dark fantasy. I'd been going through therapy for anger issues. And my therapist suggested I write down my dark thoughts to process them. Those entries weren't real plans. They were just... venting. So you never put antifreeze in Grace's tea? Never. I don't even know where someone would buy antifreeze. I brought her herbal remedies my grandmother taught me about. I was trying to help her. It was a masterful performance. She looked directly at the jury, tears streaming. voice breaking at just the right moments. And the wine at the restaurant? I don't know anything about that. Derek must have done something without telling me. I had no idea that wine was poisoned. When I drank it, I thought I was gonna die. I thought Grace had poisoned me because she was jealous of my relationship with David. The jury shifted uncomfortably. Was it possible? Then D.A. Winters stood for cross-examination. She didn't waste time with pleasantries. Ms. Hayes Chen, you testified that your journal was fiction, a dark fantasy. Is that correct? Yes. Let me read you an entry from March 5th. Grace is getting sicker. Doctor can't figure it out. I volunteered to take her to all her appointments so I can control what she tells them. That's a very specific fantasy. You fantasized about controlling what a sick woman told her doctors. I was processing my feelings. And this entry from April 20th. She's so weak now, barely eating. I have to force-feed her the poisoned soup. You wrote poisoned soup, not healing soup, not herbal soup. Poisoned. How do you explain that? I was angry. I didn't mean... Let's talk about Derek Morrison, your lover, the man you were planning to run away with after murdering your husband and mother-in-law. How long were you having an affair with Grace's brother? I wasn't having an affair. We have motel receipts, photos of you kissing in parking lots, text messages where you call him baby and discuss your future together. Are those also fiction? Sarah's composure cracked. That's taken out of context? What context makes it appropriate to have an affair with your husband's uncle while planning to murder his mother? Objection! Gerald Hutchins was on his feet. Argumentative! Withdrawn. D.A. Winters pulled up a photo on the screen. Do you recognize this image? It was Sarah and Derek in a parking lot, 3 weeks before my birthday. Sarah was handing Derek an envelope. I don't remember. This was taken on January 25th. Security cameras at a grocery store. What's in that envelope, Ms. Hayes Chen? I don't know. Maybe money I owed him. Or payment for delivering poisoned wine to a restaurant. We traced this envelope. Derek's fingerprints were on it, along with traces of ethylene glycol. The same poison found in your garage, your car, and Grace Chen's bloodstream. Sarah's face went white. I didn't know what Derek was planning. Really? Let me read you a text message you sent to Derek on January 24th, the day before this photo. Tomorrow. Don't forget the wine. Make sure Antonio puts it aside for Saturday. This has to work. We only get one shot at this. The courtroom was silent. Sarah opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. That's not what it sounds like. What else could it possibly sound like? D.A. Winters' voice was sharp now. You planned it. You documented it. You executed it. And the only reason Grace Chen is alive today is because you drank your own poison. That's not innocence, Ms. Hayes Chen. That's poetic justice. Sarah's composure shattered. She started crying. Real tears now. Not performed ones. Ugly, desperate tears. You don't understand. Grace had everything. Money, property, David's love. I worked so hard, sacrificed so much, and what did I have? A husband who worked all the time, kids who exhausted me. A mother-in-law who judged every choice I made. So you decided to kill her? I decided to take what I deserved. Emma had it. Then I had to get rid of her. Grace had it, so she had to go too. It's not fair that some people get everything, while others get nothing. The courtroom erupted. Even her own lawyer put his head in his hands. Sarah realized what she'd said. No, wait, I didn't mean... But it was too late. She'd confessed. Again. On the stand. In front of everyone. Did you just admit to murdering Emma Chen? D.A. Winters asked quietly. No, I meant... Sarah looked around wildly, searching for an escape. I want immunity. I want a deal. I'll tell you everything, but I want immunity. You don't get immunity. D.A. Winters said coldly. You get justice. No further questions, Your Honor. The jury deliberated for 90 minutes. When they returned, Sarah was trembling. On the count of attempted murder in the first degree, how do you find the defendant? Guilty. On the count of conspiracy to commit murder, how do you find the defendant? Guilty. On the count of elder abuse, how do you find the defendant? Guilty. Guilty on all counts. 15 charges total. Sentencing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. Sarah was remanded into custody without bail. As they led her out of the courtroom in handcuffs, she turned and looked at me one last time. "You took everything from me," she hissed. "No," I said quietly. "You took everything from yourself." On sentencing day, the judge asked if I wanted to make a victim impact statement. I stood before the court and faced Sarah one final time. "Sarah, I loved you. I welcomed you into my family. I would have given you anything if you'd just asked. But you didn't want my love. You wanted my death. You tortured me for 6 months. You watched me suffer and celebrated it. You planned to murder my son, your own husband, and my grandchildren would have grown up without either parent." My voice grew stronger. "You killed Emma Chen, a beautiful young woman who deserved to live, to love, to have a future. You stole that from her. You stole 7 years of Rachel's life, 7 years she spent seeking justice for the woman she loved." I looked at the judge. "Your Honor, I don't want mercy for Sarah Hayes Chen. I want justice. I want her to spend the rest of her life in prison, thinking about what she did, remembering every moment of cruelty, living with the knowledge that her greed destroyed everything, including herself." The judge nodded. "Sarah Hayes Chen, you have been convicted of attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, elder abuse, and accessory to murder in the death of Emma Chen. You are a danger to society and have shown no remorse for your actions. I hereby sentence you to 25 years, to life on the attempted murder charge, to be served consecutively with a 15-year sentence for conspiracy, and an additional 10 years for elder abuse. You will be eligible for parole in 50 years. Sarah would be 92 years old before she could even apply for parole." She screamed. She fought the bailiffs as they dragged her away. "This isn't fair. I deserve better. Grace, tell them, Grace!" But I turned away. She was gone from my life forever. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. Rachel, David, and I stood together, arms linked. "Mrs. Chen, how do you feel about the verdict? Justice was served. Ms. Morrison, you broke the law to catch Sarah. Do you have any regrets?" Rachel looked directly at the camera. "I regret that I wasn't able to save Emma 7 years ago. But I'm grateful I could save Grace. Sometimes you have to break small rules to stop big evils. David, your wife tried to murder your mother and planned to murder you. How do you move forward?" David took a breath. "You learn to trust again, slowly. You rebuild, and you hold close the people who truly love you." He looked at me and Rachel. "I have my real family now. That's all that matters." That night, the 3 of us had dinner at my house. Just us. No cameras, no lawyers, no drama. Just family. "I've been thinking," Rachel said quietly, "about Emma, about how she never got justice until now. I want to do something in her memory." "What did you have in mind?" I asked. "A foundation. The Emma Chen Foundation for Victims of Covert Abuse, to help people who are being slowly poisoned, emotionally or physically. To provide resources, investigation, protection." David's eyes filled with tears. "Emma would love that." "We'll fund it," I said. "The 3 of us together. Emma's legacy will be saving others." Rachel smiled, the first genuine full smile I'd seen from her. "Thank you, both of you, for letting me be part of this family." "You saved my life," I said. "You gave me my son back. You're not just part of this family, Rachel. You are family." David raised his glass. "To Emma, to justice, to second chances, to family," Rachel added. "To survival," I finished. We clinked glasses, and for the first time in a year, I felt peace. The nightmare was over, but the healing was just beginning. 2 years after my 58th birthday dinner, I woke up on a Saturday morning and realized something extraordinary. I was happy. Not the cautious, fragile happiness of someone still healing. Not the grateful to be alive feeling that had dominated my first year after the trial. Real deep, grounded happiness. The kind that comes from knowing who you are and what you've survived. I got out of bed without pain. My body had recovered from the poisoning completely. Dr. Patterson said it was a miracle, considering how close I'd come to total organ failure. But I think it was more than medical science. When you have a reason to live, when you have purpose, your body fights harder. I made coffee and stood on my back porch, looking at the garden Rachel and I had planted together. Roses, lavender, sunflowers, Emma's favorite flowers. In the center was a small stone bench with a plaque. Emma Chen Memorial Garden, a place for truth and healing. My phone buzzed. A text from David. Mom, don't forget. Foundation board meeting at 10. Rachel's bringing pastries. I smiled. The Emma Chen Foundation had grown beyond anything we'd imagined. What started as a small nonprofit run out of my living room had become a national organization. We had offices in 12 states, a staff of 47 people, and we'd helped over 300 families in the past 18 months. Families like mine. People being slowly poisoned by those they trusted. Women whose partners were gaslighting them into thinking they were crazy. Elderly people being financially abused by their own children. We provided private investigators, legal support, medical testing, and most importantly, belief. We believe you, was our motto. Because so often victims of covert abuse aren't believed. They're told they're paranoid, dramatic, attention-seeking. We gave them validation. We gave them tools. We gave them justice. Rachel had become the Foundation's director of investigations. She'd built a team of former FBI agents, retired detectives, and tech specialists who could uncover even the most carefully hidden abuse. And everything they did was legal, ethical, documented. Rachel had learned from her mistakes. David handled the business side. He'd sold his company after Marcus's death. Too many painful memories. Now he devoted himself full-time to the Foundation, managing finances, fundraising, partnerships. He'd found purpose in turning his tragedy into something meaningful. And me? I was the face of the Foundation. The survivor who spoke at conferences, did interviews, met with victims, and told them the truth. You can survive this. You can rebuild. You can be happy again. I arrived at our Foundation offices at 9:45 a.m. The building was modest but welcoming, with large windows and warm colors. On the wall of the reception area hung a photo of Emma. Young, smiling, full of life. Below it, in memory of Emma Chen, whose death brought light to the darkness of covert abuse. Rachel was already in the conference room, setting out pastries and coffee. When she saw me, she smiled. That open, genuine smile that had taken her months to learn. Trust didn't come easy to someone who'd spent 7 years chasing a killer. Morning, Grace. Sleep well? Like the dead, I said, then winced. Poor choice of words, she laughed. I think we're allowed dark humor at this point. David arrived with his new girlfriend, Claire. She was a trauma therapist he'd met at a conference. A kind woman with gentle eyes who'd helped him work through his guilt over not seeing Sarah's true nature. They'd been dating for 6 months, taking it slow, building something real. Everyone ready? David asked, pulling up his laptop. We spent the next 2 hours reviewing cases. A woman in Oregon whose husband was slowly poisoning her coffee. A man in Florida whose business partner was embezzling and planning worse. An elderly couple whose daughter was forging documents to steal their property. For each case, Rachel's team had gathered evidence. Legal, admissible evidence. We worked closely with law enforcement now. Detective Morrison had become our unofficial liaison with police departments nationwide. This one breaks my heart, Rachel said, showing us photos of a 16-year-old girl. Her stepmother has been poisoning her for 3 years. Making her sick so she could play the devoted caretaker and manipulate the father. The girl thought she was dying of a mystery illness. Sounds familiar? What's the evidence? I asked. Hidden cameras the girl installed in her own room after we advised her how. Footage of the stepmother adding something to her food. We tested the substance, rat poison, mixed with her vitamin smoothies every morning. Has she gone to police? Yesterday. Stepmother was arrested this morning. The girl is safe with her maternal grandmother now. She wanted me to tell you thank you. She said reading your story gave her courage to fight back. My eyes filled with tears. This was why we did it. After the meeting, Rachel and I took our usual Saturday walk through Memorial Park, the same park where she'd first revealed herself to me 2 years ago. We'd made it a tradition. Every Saturday, rain or shine, we'd walk and talk. I got a letter yesterday, Rachel said quietly. From Sarah. I stopped walking. What? She's written me several times from prison. I've never responded. But this one, I think you should read it. She handed me a folded piece of paper, Sarah's handwriting, still elegant despite being written in prison. Dear Rachel, I know you'll never forgive me. I don't deserve forgiveness. But I need you to know something. Emma didn't suffer. I know that sounds insane coming from me, but it's true. The poisoning I gave her was gradual enough that she never knew real pain. She thought she was just sick. She died believing it was natural causes. I'm telling you this not to make myself feel better, but because I know you've spent 7 years wondering if she suffered. She didn't, and in those final days she talked about you constantly. She loved you so much, Rachel, more than she ever loved David. You were her real love story. I took that from you. I took her from you. I can't undo that. But I want you to know that Emma died thinking about you, loving you, planning a future with you. I stole her life, but I didn't steal her love for you. That was always yours. I don't expect you to care, but I also want you to know. I'm glad you stopped me. I'm glad I didn't succeed in killing Grace, because Grace was right. I destroyed everything good in my life chasing things that didn't matter. Money, security, power. And I lost love, family, freedom, everything real. Prison gives you a lot of time to think, to realize what you've done. Some days I wake up and can't believe I was capable of such evil. Other days, I remember exactly how I felt and understand that version of myself too well. I'm sorry, Rachel. For Emma, for Grace, for David, for everyone I hurt. I'll spend the rest of my life here, and that's justice. But I wanted you to know, Emma's last thoughts were of you. She died loved. Sarah, I handed the letter back to Rachel. Her face was wet with tears. Do you believe her? She asked. I don't know. Does it matter? It matters to me. I've spent 7 years wondering if Emma died in pain, scared, alone. If Sarah's telling the truth. If Emma died peacefully, thinking of our future together. That gives me something. A small piece of peace. Then believe her, I said gently. Take whatever peace you can find from that letter. You've earned it. We sat on a bench overlooking the pond. The same bench where Rachel had told me about the third conspirator, about Derek and Sarah's affair, about Marcus's betrayal. So much had happened here. I've been thinking about dating again, Rachel said suddenly. I turned to her, surprised. Really? It's been 9 years since Emma died. 7 years of investigating, 2 years of healing. Maybe it's time to let myself live again. Actually live, not just survive. Emma would want that for you. I know. I feel guilty. Like moving on means forgetting her. Rachel, you built a foundation in her name. You've saved hundreds of lives because of her. You could never forget her. But you're allowed to be happy. You're allowed to love again. What about you? She asked. Have you thought about dating? I laughed. I'm 60 years old. Who would want to date a woman with my baggage? Someone wise enough to appreciate what you've survived. Someone worthy of your strength. She bumped my shoulder. You're not dead, Grace. You're allowed to have a life beyond being a survivor. Her words stayed with me. Was I allowed? After everything. Was I allowed to want more than just peace? Was I allowed to want joy, romance, adventure? That night I sat in Emma's memorial garden with a glass of wine and thought about the past 2 years, about everything I'd lost and everything I'd gained. I'd lost my trust, my innocence, my sense of safety. I'd lost my brother, my daughter-in-law, my peace of mind. But I'd gained Rachel. I'd gained purpose through the foundation. I'd gained a deeper relationship with David. I'd gained wisdom, strength, resilience. And I'd gained something else, something I hadn't expected. I'd gained myself. For 58 years, I'd been someone's daughter, someone's wife, someone's mother. I'd defined myself through relationships, through what I could give to others. The poisoning, as horrible as it was, had forced me to discover who Grace Chen was when everything else was stripped away. And I liked her. I liked the woman who'd stared down death and decided to live. The woman who'd taken her trauma and transformed it into a mission. The woman who could sit in her garden and feel genuinely, deeply happy. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Is this Grace Chen? A woman's voice, nervous. Yes. Who's calling? My name is Donna Harper. I read about your foundation, about what happened to you. And I think my sister-in-law is poisoning my brother. I don't know what to do. Everyone thinks I'm crazy, but I know something's wrong. Please, can you help? I sat up straighter. Tell me everything, Donna. Start from the beginning. For the next hour, I listened to Donna's story. Her brother Michael's mysterious illness, his wife's overly attentive care, the life insurance policies that had suddenly been increased, the suspicious timing of it all. It was like listening to my own story repeated. Donna, you're not crazy. And you're not alone. We're going to help you. We're going to save your brother. She started crying. Thank you. Thank you so much. I was so scared no one would believe me. We believe you, I said firmly. That's what we do. Now here's what we need to do first. After I hung up, I called Rachel. We have a new case. Oregon. Poisoning suspected. I think it's real. I'll assemble the team. Can you fly out Monday? Already booking my flight. This was my life now. Traveling to meet victims, coordinating investigations, stopping monsters before they succeeded. It was exhausting, heartbreaking work, and I'd never felt more alive. 6 months later, Michael Harper's wife was arrested for attempted murder. The evidence Rachel's team gathered was irrefutable. Another life saved. Another family spared the horror I'd endured. Donna sent me a video of Michael after he recovered. He was playing with his kids in his backyard, laughing, healthy, whole. Thank you for giving me my brother back, she wrote. You're an angel. I wasn't an angel. I was just a woman who'd survived hell and decided to use that experience to help others avoid the flames. The foundation threw a gala for our 2-year anniversary. 300 people attended. Survivors, families, donors, law enforcement partners. The ballroom was decorated with white roses, Emma's favorite. David gave a speech about his journey from victim to advocate. My wife tried to kill my mother and me. My business partner conspired with her. My uncle betrayed us. I lost everything I thought was real. But from those ashes, we built something beautiful. We built hope. Rachel spoke about Emma. She died thinking she had a mystery illness. She died without justice, but her death wasn't meaningless. Because of her, hundreds of people have been saved. She's a hero, even though she never knew she was fighting a villain. Then it was my turn. I stood at the podium, looking out at all these faces, survivors, fighters, people who'd stared down evil and won. 2 years ago, I almost died at my birthday dinner. My daughter-in-law served me poison in a wine glass. My brother delivered it. My own family tried to murder me for money. The room was silent. But I survived. And I made a choice. I could let that experience destroy me, make me bitter and afraid. Or I could use it, transform it, turn my pain into purpose. I gestured to Rachel and David. We chose purpose. We chose to fight back, not just for ourselves, but for everyone who comes after us. Covert abuse is invisible. That's what makes it so dangerous. The poisoner who brings you soup, the caretaker who's actually killing you, the loving partner who's slowly driving you insane, They hide in plain sight because we don't want to believe that evil can wear a caring face. But we believe. The Emma Chen Foundation believes you. We see you. We help you. And we stop them. I pulled out a photo. My 58th birthday. The restaurant. The moment before everything changed. This is the last photo of me as a victim. The woman in this picture trusted blindly. Loved without protecting herself. Gave without expecting anything back. I pulled out another photo. Recent. Me, Rachel, and David at the foundation offices. Laughing. This is who I am now. A survivor. An advocate. A fighter. And I'm happier than I've ever been. The room erupted in applause. People were standing, crying, cheering. After the gala, I found myself alone on the balcony, looking at the city lights. It was a beautiful night. Cool breeze, clear stars. The kind of evening that made you grateful to be alive. Grace? A man's voice behind me. I turned. He was maybe 65, distinguished looking, with kind eyes and gray hair. I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm James Patterson, Dr. Patterson's brother. He told me about you, about what you've built. I wanted to meet the woman who turned tragedy into triumph. That's generous. Most days I'm just trying to help one person at a time. That's exactly what triumph looks like. He smiled. My brother carries a lot of guilt about not diagnosing your poisoning earlier. He's never forgiven himself. He shouldn't feel guilty. Sarah was very good at hiding what she was doing. I told him that. But doctors are hard on themselves. James paused. I lost my wife 3 years ago. Cancer. I understand what it's like to rebuild your life after devastating loss. We talked for an hour. About loss, healing, second chances. About how life doesn't end when tragedy strikes. It just changes shape. When the gala ended, James asked if he could call me sometime. Maybe coffee? I'd love to hear more about the foundation's work. I said yes, not because I was looking for romance, but because I was open to connection, to friendship, to whatever life wanted to offer me next. Because that's what healing looks like. Not closing yourself off to protect against future pain, but opening yourself up to the possibility of future joy. 3 years after my poisoning, the foundation received national recognition. We were featured on major news networks, in magazines, on podcasts. My story became a cautionary tale, a survival story, an inspiration. But the moment that mattered most to me wasn't the awards or the publicity. It was a Tuesday afternoon when a young woman came to our office. She was maybe 25, thin, scared-looking. She approached the reception desk and whispered, "I think my boyfriend is poisoning me. Everyone says I'm paranoid, but I know something's wrong. Can you help?" The receptionist brought her to me. We sat in my office and she told me her story, the mysterious symptoms, the loving boyfriend who brought her special smoothies, the unexplained weight loss, and nausea. "You're not paranoid," I told her. "You're aware. And that awareness just saved your life." We helped her. Rachel's team found Antifreeze hidden in the boyfriend's apartment, documented his purchases, caught him on camera, adulterating her food. He was arrested. She was saved. 6 months later, she came back to the office, healthy, glowing, happy. "I wanted to show you," she said. "Show you that I'm okay, that I survived, because of you." "Not because of me," I said. "Because of you. You trusted your instincts. You asked for help. You fought back. But you gave me permission to believe in myself. You showed me what survival looks like." She hugged me tightly. "Thank you for saving my life by sharing yours." That night, I sat in Emma's garden again. It had become my place of reflection, where I processed everything. Rachel found me there. She sat beside me on the stone bench. "Penny for your thoughts?" I was thinking about Sarah's letter, about how she said Emma died thinking of me, of our future together. And I realized Emma got her future. Not the one she imagined, but a future nonetheless. Through the foundation, through every life we save, she's living on. I think she'd be proud of what we've built. "I think she'd be proud of you," I said. "You never gave up on her. Even when everyone said you were crazy, you kept fighting for her truth. I learned from the best, Rachel said, bumping my shoulder. A certain stubborn woman who survived 6 months of poisoning and decided to turn it into a mission. We sat in comfortable silence, watching fireflies dance among Emma's flowers. Grace, can I ask you something? Always. Do you ever regret it? Surviving, I mean. Some days the pain of what we've been through feels so heavy. Do you ever wish you'd just not switched those glasses? I thought about it carefully. No, never. Because, yes, the pain is real. The trauma is real. The nightmares and triggers and hard days are all real. But so is this. I gestured around us. This foundation, these lives we've saved, this family we've built. If I died that night, none of this exists. And that's not a trade I'd ever make. Rachel nodded slowly. Me either. Even with all the pain, I wouldn't trade what we've built. We turned the worst thing that ever happened to us into the best thing we ever did. That's not just survival, Grace. That's alchemy. I laughed. Alchemy. I like that. Turning poison into purpose. Turning death into life. Turning victims into warriors. We clinked our water bottles together like champagne glasses. To alchemy, Rachel said. To survival, I added. To Emma, we said together. As the sun set over the garden, painting everything in shades of gold and pink, I felt a profound sense of peace. Not the fragile peace of someone still healing, the solid peace of someone who'd healed. I was 61 years old. I'd been poisoned, betrayed, nearly murdered. I'd lost family members to greed and evil. I'd seen the worst of human nature, but I'd also seen the best. Rachel's determination to save a stranger, David's courage to rebuild after betrayal, the countless victims who found their voices and fought back, the donors who believed in our mission, the law enforcement officers who partnered with us. For every Sarah in this world, there were 10 Rachels. For every betrayer, there were dozens of heroes. And me? I wasn't a victim anymore. I wasn't even just a survivor. I was a warrior, a builder, a woman who'd stared down death and decided that living well was the best revenge. Sarah was in prison, would be for the rest of her life. Derek was dead. Marcus was dead. Emma was gone. But I was here, healthy, happy, whole. I won. Thank you for walking this difficult road with me to the very end. If this story resonated with you, you can support our community by sending a super thanks. It helps me continue to bring these important stories to light. On the screen now are 2 more stories that I know will touch your soul. I'll see you in the next one. Stay strong, turning to look at Emma's garden one last time. Remember, child, poison can kill your body, but it can also kill your soul if you let bitterness take root. The real victory isn't just surviving the poison. It's refusing to become poisoned yourself. Grace Chen survived. And more than that, she thrived. May we all have that strength when darkness comes knocking. Until we meet again, beautiful souls, stay strong, stay aware, and remember, you're never alone.